Hello and welcome to Robotics and Games Club. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to pass practice number 3 of building level 2. Okay, so we're going to click on building down here. So we've passed these other two, and this is practice number 3. So number 3 is beat the challenge. So copy the code from the example below and memorize the robot to the left. So we've already used this robot twice in these two previous examples, or for these two previous examples. And then click here and follow the instructions on the left. So first thing we have to do is copy this code. So here we're going to get into actually building a robot. And this robot is going to have to complete a specified challenge. Okay, so I've copied the code. I've got this robot memorized that's off to the left. It's pretty simple. I've got two wheels here. I've got the ports. It's 0 and 1. Fairly simple. Okay, so now I'm going to click here and follow the instructions. So it pops up a help page. And from here, the first thing I need to do is click on Robot Store, which gets us back to level 0, and order the parts to build the robot, and then click Checkout. It says if you already have these parts, you can skip this step and click Build. Well, we don't have any parts, so we need to go to Robot Store. Click on Robot Store. And I'm going to need a right wheel and one left wheel. And that is it. Okay, so I guess scroll down to the bottom because we will already have the processor. So I click Checkout, and it's going to go to my build page. Oh, I already have those. Oh, I already have all of that. Okay. So here you wouldn't have this, so I'm just going to delete this. I delete all of this. I should have checked this before I started running this example. I'm going to click remove, and I'm going to get rid of everything that was there. Okay. And then I'm going to go to move. So here, so pretend like this is where when I clicked on checkout and it brought me here, let's pretend that it just started out here and that I didn't have to delete that other stuff because I forgot I was actually building on this. I was actually using this one to build things. So now I just slide this part over. Okay, line that up. Move this part over here as well. Now it does matter because it uses an actual physics engine to run this. So if you have your wheels like this, for example, it's going to change the physics of how your robot functions. So we want to make sure that we have it similar to what our robot is built, what our robot showed, or the code isn't going to quite match what our robot is actually going to do. Okay, and then here the processor, it doesn't matter where you put the processor, not in the gray though, just somewhere in the white. The gray is for your dashboard, so all your keys and the displays are all going to go down here. Here, you want to keep it in the white. It does not generate, this does not get generated, just the wheels and the body do. So now we need to connect up our robot, connect up our ports so that our ports are connected to the motors, otherwise the motors won't run. And in here, I'm going to paste my code. So I click Paste. There's the code. Okay, now I click, okay, so I click Build, paste the code into the code window at the right of the robot window. Okay, yep, check, did that, and build the robot. Robot is built. Click Update. So now I click on the Update, and it says Compile Successful. If you did something wrong in the copying of that code, it will say Compile is not successful. Which it'll be also in red. You need to go back and you need to recopy all of the code and paste all of the code into the code window. Okay, deleting whatever you had there before. Okay, so we have compiled this successfully. Now I'm going to click on Challenges. Underneath Challenges, I'm going to go to AI Basics, which is now unlocked because I'm on level 3. Level 2. So I click on AI Basics. here you can see, here are all the banned things. So each one of these challenges is going to have different things that are banned and different things that are acceptable. Here you cannot use query, you can't use the keyboard, you can't use serial get, sim, or game. Now, we haven't covered any of these things, so it's not that important. But what is important is when you go to different levels, things will be banned and you cannot use them. Okay, so this challenge has you, the goal of this challenge is you have to move your robot to each of the waypoints in order, then cross the finish line. So here you need to move your robot to waypoint 1, and you have to touch it with the body of the robot, and then 2, 3, 4, and then cross the finish line here at 5. Okay? So click on Go To Challenge. You will need the robot to touch. I kind of already said that. So we're going to click on Go To Challenge. Now this challenge is going to show you, this is what your robot program does. Okay, so if we look at our program, we can see that in setup, which is the first part of the program that it goes to motor right, which is turns on motor 0 at 60. So you saw it move forward, and this one is also at 60. So it moved forward for 1 second, and then the motor right port 1 switched to negative 60. So port 1 is on the right-hand side. So port 0 is still at 60, and motor right port number 1 is at negative 60. So it's going to turn, or it's going to spin to the right. So you can see it's spinning to the right, right? This wheel is going around to the right. I suppose I could say clockwise, but a lot of people don't know what clockwise is these days. So once it finishes setup, then it goes to loop, and it says delay 10. So delay 10, it waits for a hundredth of a second, and then exits. So what this delay is doing down here is it's switching to from running your program to running the simulator. So here we're saying, okay, just run the simulator, and then it's going to loop again. So loop is actually a function that just keeps looping. So once this loop finishes, it gets called again, and it has a delay of a hundredth of a second. And then it goes and it loops again and again and again. And it just keeps looping until we finish, till we get to 5. But we're never going to get to 5 because our program ends right here. Okay, so we need to click on Build and modify the program to complete the challenge. So one thing I need to do is, it didn't go far enough in order to get to touch waypoint 1. Okay, so what I need to do is go to Build. Here's our robot. Our robot isn't the problem, it's this one right here. So I'm going to go to, we'll say 2 seconds maybe, in which case it should hit the number 1, and then it's going to turn, and when it turns, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste the delay down here, and I want it to go for, we'll say 500 seconds, 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. So I want it to turn for about half a second, and then I want to switch the motor port 1 from negative 60, I want to switch it back to 60. So motor port 0 is still going to be at 60, and motor port 1 is going to be now at 60 again. So it's going to go forward. So it's going to have a delay of 2 seconds. The motor port is then going to turn, it's going to spin to the right for half a second, and then the motors are going to go straight. So with this code, I should be able to get through touching point 1, waypoint 1, and then it should turn and do waypoint 2, and then just keep going. Okay, so let's click Update. Now it saves the program, compile successful. So we know we didn't make any mistakes in there. Now we're going to go to Challenges, and in Challenges we're going to go back to AI Basics and go to the challenge. And here's our robot. So our robot moves forward. That's 2 seconds. Turns. It looks like it turned a little too far. But it does touch that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the first delay down to maybe 1.8. And then this one I'm going to change to be not quite half a second. because a half a second it turned a little too much, because I want it to go in a nice square. Okay, click on build, and you'll have to cycle through these a few times, so you can kind of keep building it up. And oh no, I want to change those numbers a little bit, and then you can change the numbers and see what it looks like. So let's try 47. And now we'll add the next section on there. So it's going to go forward for probably closer to 3 seconds, because it's a little bit longer. I want to copy this, paste it. I'm going to do something a little bit goofy. I'm going to get rid of that semicolon just so that you can see what happens. And now I want it to, after 2 seconds, or almost, no, I wanted it about 3 seconds. So maybe a little over 3 seconds. Then I want it to turn to the left. Instead of going to the right, I want it to turn to the left. I will copy this, copy and paste. And here I want this to be motor port 0. So if the right side is going at 60 and the left side is going at -60, then it's going to turn to the left, which is what I want it to do, because I have to go back across the other way and get to waypoint 3. So here it's going to turn for a little less than half a second, and then I want it to go straight again. So I'm going to copy this code. Actually, I'm just going to copy this code and paste it here. And I need to switch this so that motor port 0 goes back to 60, so that at this point motor port 1 will be going at 60 and motor port 0 will also be going at 60. Okay, so I'm going to click update, and you're going to see compile failure. So what happened? On line 9, it expected either a right bracket, right parenthesis, open brace, a comma, an operator, or a semicolon. And this is what I got, and unexpected name. So you can click on help and it'll help you with unexpected name, or it'll help explain what these things are. I'm going to go back to line 9. So I can click on the back arrow up here, or I could click on build. I'll just click on back. So here it says line 9. Line 9 isn't actually our problem. The problem is the line above. So the thing is, it doesn't recognize that there's a problem until it gets to a semicolon or a terminating curly brace. It doesn't recognize it until it gets to one of those points. So here the error is actually here, but it doesn't recognize that it's an error, because it allows you to do various things like this. But once it gets to this semicolon and it processes this whole command, so this is kind of like a semicolon. It says this is the end of a command. So when it gets to the end of the command, it says, wait a minute, something doesn't make any sense. Then it fails and says, oh, line 9 had the error. So oftentimes check and make sure that line 8 doesn't have an error saying that, where you forgot the semicolon, which is the end of a command, and it just kept processing until it got to the actual, this is an end of the command, which is a semicolon. So once I've fixed this, now I can click update, and compile is now successful. So the compiler now says, yes, your code is good, and it knows how to run and execute your code. So you can now go to challenges, and we'll see what this code is going to do for us. So here we'll go to challenge. Now I should, if I did this right, I should be able to get all the way through waypoint 3. So there it turned. It looks like I need to turn a little bit more. So it looks like it didn't quite, and it didn't go far enough. So I'm going to need to make that maybe 30, 34. Okay, so let's go back to build. 32 is too short. I need to go to probably at least 34. And 47 seems like it's a little bit high. Did it turn? I think it turned too much. So we're going to switch that to 6. And this one to 6. Okay, and so now we'll also try to get to the next level as well. So once we've done this motor right, we need, it's going to go straight. And it's going to go straight for about that much time. Copy this, paste it there. Okay, then we want it to turn to the right. So that'd be 3. 3, nope, 3 needs to turn to the left. So again, we need to turn 0, has to go -60. We need to go with a delay and then switch 0 back to +60. Okay, so it's going to go forward for 1.8 seconds, then it's going to turn to the right, and then go straight for 3.4 seconds, and then it's going to turn to the left about 90 degrees, and then go straight, then for 3.4 seconds, then it's going to go turn to the left again, and then it's going to go straight. So that should get us up through waypoint 4. I'm just going to finish this whole thing, because once we hit waypoint 4, then it's going to be the same as this one here, and I'm just going to copy those 4 lines, copy, and oh, I'm going to have to include something else. This one here actually needs to go here. Okay, so at this point it goes forward up to waypoint number 4 for 3.4 seconds. My motor right is then going to be number 1, or port 1 is going to be -60, so it's going to turn to the right for about 90 degrees, and then I'm going to switch it back to going straight ahead. So this should be enough to finish the entire challenge. So I'm going to click on challenges. Oops, I got to go back. So what did I forget to do? I forgot to compile it. So it didn't add that code in. So in that case, you want to go back. If what you do is you click on build, this code's not going to be there, because this code is not currently saved. So I want to make sure I click update after every time I make these change on this screen, whether I change the robot or whether I change the program. I need to click on update. It does the compiler. It does the compile, but it also does a save. So it saves the robot, it saves your code, compiles it, and creates an executable. Okay, click on challenges. Now I can go to AI Basics. If you get to this point and it isn't running, then use the back arrow up here in the corner to keep going back until you find where your code is. Okay. Now we're going to go to the challenge. So here our robot starts off, and it moves, gets to that point. That's pretty good. Ooh, I should have made it go further. That is a mistake. Okay, it needed to be further, not less. I made a mistake there. So I'm going to go back to build. Now, because the program is saved, we're good. And I need to switch this probably to more like 80. So I'll just switch these to 80. And I think that will be good. I might switch these to 35, because it looked like it was a little bit shy too. 35, 35, 3.5 is actually more of what it is. And then here it doesn't matter, because once it hits the end, once it crosses the finish line, it doesn't matter what it does, because the simulation will end and it'll say, yep, we did it. Okay, so click update, compile as successful, challenges, and AI Basics. So here I'm going to go to the challenge, and we'll see how well this robot does. So there I turned. That looks pretty close to 90. Okay, that's good. So I got 2, 3. So if you hit the waypoints in not the order that it's specified, it won't remove the waypoint. So you definitely have to hit them in order. And here, and it gets to 5. Challenge complete. Challenge completed. And we've got it. So now this turns green. If I go back to challenges, you can see that this challenge is now green. That means that I passed it. Gray means you can't, I mean, you can see it, but you can't do anything with it, because here you have to get to building level 3 before this gets unlocked. And we'll deal with that later. So right now, because I've gotten through this, the last thing that I'll do is click on the exit help button below, and I can get rid of this help, and it goes back to home.